Hi all, welcome back to Hear Our Voices. This is your host, K Did. We are back here one more week. We made it. I'm surprised. Well, I'm not surprised, let's be honest. And please follow us on social media. We're trying to grow on those platforms, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and even on here. So if you're listening here constantly every week and you'll be a part of our family, please join in because we would love that. And also write a question. If you want to have any questions for us or you want to put in the DMs, do that. I answer all the questions. I'm the only person who look at the DM at this point. The other person just do social media entirely. I actually I'm the person dealing with the DMs. So if you have any questions about housing, about anything will come up in this topic or any topic in general with homelessness or how can you go about going the path and things like that, I'm definitely a person for that. If I don't know information, I would definitely go ask somebody who does know the information. But I know a pretty good amount about this particular topic, so I'm usually pretty good to answering certain things. And if you need help with your child in school and things like that, we also have resources for you for that. So definitely get to me in the DMs and we can help you with that situation. But thank you so much for listening. Go grab some popcorn, grab a drink, and sit back and relax. Or you could be cleaning and listening to this. It's up to you. Whatever you want to do, I am here for it. So we're gonna get into the podcast today, and we have a new person. Obviously, every week is a new person, right? Most times, and we're gonna get into her story and her nonprofit that she has actually. So, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your nonprofit?
Hey, everyone. Thank you so much, K Did, for this opportunity to have a conversation with you. My name is Tanesha Grant. I am the executive director of a community-based organization because community-based organizations and nonprofits are way different. So I'm a executive director of a community-based organization, two actually, one called Parent Support and Parents New York, the other called Moms United for Black Lives New York City. I am a mother of three and a grandmother of four, a community organizer,
Oh,
and all around advocate for all things involving social justice and racial justice. Hi.
hi. Can you tell us why you actually started your it's not a nonprofit, it's a community-based organization. And you can tell us the difference because people might not even know there's a difference in those things.
Yeah, sure. So community-based organizations and nonprofits are different in these ways, even though we both um, probably apply for the state for a nonprofit status. Community-based organizations are not funded like nonprofits, and community-based organizations are the ones that deal directly with the community. Like my organization gets those calls at 12 o'clock at night to help a community member. We're on the ground 24/7. So it's different. Usually with a nonprofit, it goes a little different. They have a staff that they pay, they have a bigger budget, and they're more into doing things like, education programs and things like that. We do any and everything that we can, with the funds that we have. So, yeah.
Okay, that sounds good. Anything to help the people, honestly, I don't care how it comes. As long as it comes to help the community, that's all it's about. Not there to hurt it, to help it
Absolutely.
grow. That's the thing.
Absolutely.
Because certain places are there and they're not. They say they're doing something, and we see the funding go to them, but they're actually not doing nothing for the people in that
Yeah,
community. And
it
that's
happens. It happens a lot. Like nonprofits is big business, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it actually helps the people on the ground. Like I know a lot of good nonprofits, but when I was a parent advocate or a parent leader for some nonprofits, it was just some things that I wish there was in place that wasn't. So I created my own organization where those type of services would be in place.
got it. So I want to get more into your name of your nonprofit and why do you pick that name? That's one thing. And also what services you directly do at this moment and what services you would like to actually have added in the future.
Yeah, so Parent Support and Parents New York was formed in April 2020 at the height of the pandemic um,
Mhm.
to be a resource to parents, especially Black parents. And I'm going to tell you why. Because, for so long in this country, Black people have been told that they can't have their own. And anytime we try to start something that is our own, we are told that we have to include everyone else. But Black people are, excluded from everything. And as soon as Black people start something and say, okay, this is for, Black people, we're going to try to help Black people, it's like a big problem. So I'm a rule breaker, I'm a rebel, I'm an abolitionist. So we don't turn anyone away, but we
Right.
do concentrate like on Black families because we know disproportionately they are affected by poverty, they are affected by ACS, a child welfare system, or like we call it the family policing system. They are affected about housing, they are affected by, the generational wealth gap. We're affected by a lot of things in this country. When our
Right.
ancestors built this country, like literally built the economic power that is the United States for free. So I also believe in reparations. So anything that we can do for parents, whether that's giving their kid a computer, giving a community member a computer, creating a sensory box for our children with special needs, or
Oh,
buying Pampers, or buying food for our community members, or you making sure that our community members have car fare. Anything that our budget allows us to do in real time,
right.
tangible resources, that's what we do. Because a lot of times, if I'm trying to give you education and you're starving, you can't hear me.
Right.
If I'm trying to tell you something about your kid's school and you have no place to live, you can't hear me. So it's important to address the inequities while advocating for things to change, while doing real things in real times to help families and parents and children thrive in our neighborhood and not survive.
I think that's so true. Like, I think sometimes, I want to say some nonprofits, before they want to help you pay for rent, they want to tell you need the financial stuff, but like right now my home is getting taken away, so I need my rent to be paid. Then we could do that part after as a contingency plan for next time to be better. And
Right.
I definitely understand about the ACS thing. I was homeless in the hospital. My baby just came out. Oh, you don't have an address to put the birth certificate? Call the ACS. That's used as a weapon against me. And what I'm asking is for help for housing, and you're not even listening to
Absolutely.
me. So I definitely agree with that. A lot of things do affect our people. And some people might think, oh, that's not right, but you hear a lot of parents tell you these things. And when I go to shelter, even my own people are using it against me. Oh, you need to make your bed? I'm calling ACS. What does the bed got to do with
Absolutely.
me? Call it like
Absolutely. We just went to the Silverman.
I seen
Um,
on Instagram, I think.
yeah, the Silverman School of Social Work, and because the
Yes,
ACS came there, like we're fighting for the Miranda Rights Act, and it's simply, parents have Amendment rights. And for so long, ACS has been like the family police, right? They
right,
scare you into letting you in, to letting them into your home. They, tell you that you have to take drug tests for your own safety. All of these things that they do to criminalize you, as a parent. And it's really gotten out of hand. So we have a bunch of bills. That's something else that PSPNY does. Like, we support legislation.
right,
We don't necessarily want to write the policies, but if they're good policies and it's good legislation, like we're the people on the ground that's going to Albany, that's going to City Hall, that's talking to our legislations, our legislators and our elected officials about why these bills need to be passed. So right now we're concentrated on bills like the Family Miranda's Rights Act, which simply is asking. This is a bill that's already on the books, but we simply wanted to make it mandatory that before ACS workers enter your home, they tell you your rights. They tell you
right,
that you have the right to not let them in. They tell
right,
you that, if they really think that your child is in danger, then there's a protocol. They're supposed to go to court and get a court order. But what happens is less than 1% of ACS workers do that because parents are scared into allowing them into their home. And we
right.
know that a lot of times when that happens, it leads to family separation over, things like neglect. And neglect usually just means poverty, So things
Right.
like that. So yeah, we've
I
been
want
doing
to
a lot
be
of work with a lot of elected officials lately, meetings with a whole bunch of elected officials.
I want to be clear though. I'm not against ACS because some kids are really getting brutalized out here, and those parents who are doing stuff sexually to their kid, or I can't even say parent because it could be a grandma, auntie who parents that died before they have the kid. I'm not against it, but sometimes they be going hard over stuff but don't need to be going hard over. I just want to make that clear, because if a child's actually getting hurt, not getting food, stuff is really happening to them, I think that's a problem. If they're not going to school, unless they have it homeschooling, that's a things. What bother me is that, for example, a child goes to a doctor's office, but a parent doesn't believe in certain practices the doctor might go for, and they say, I'm gonna bring an ACS. I've seen a case like this.
Yep.
And it's like over something that the parent was like, I want to get more information before I give my child this particular thing. And then the doctor was like, oh no, if you don't, I call ACS. And they did call ACS on that person. I think a parent should have the right to make sure whatever they pump it into their kid, unless it's not like, oh, their heart is failing right now, that's a different story. But if it's something that they're not going to die from right away, I think the parent should have the right to, say yes or no for this particular thing. So I think it needs to be aligned.
I get what you're saying, but disproportionately, children that actually need help go unhelped and
That's
usually
true.
end up in a very bad situation. And majority of cases that ACS investigate are unfounded. So what if
That's
we was
true.
giving that money to support families instead of supporting an institution that is a legacy of slavery under the guise of care? Because you have to understand, even if it is a child that's getting abused in some type of way, when they go into foster care, 9 out of 10 times, they're going to be abused even more in foster care. So
Not in
we're
my
really
household.
just about creating a system of care that's based in community where it's a system based on care, because right now the system as it is not based on care. They don't really care about children, they don't really care about families, or they wouldn't move the way that they do, right?
Right.
So I feel like, for me, this is a system that has to be completely torn down, and something new has to be created, and something new that is based on care and not criminalization of families. Because even if a family is being harmed in their family, we also know that that's generational harm, right? Like, there's a lot of things that we don't talk about in our community that we need to talk about, that stems from slavery, that stems from being oppressed in this country, that stems from learned behaviors. A lot of people who become predators are were preyed on as
It's
children.
true.
So, I was talking to somebody the other day. We was talking about domestic violence, and we was talking about rape. And I was saying, like, in the Black community, most of the women I know have been sexually violated. Most of the women I know have been in some type of domestic violence situation. Most of the women I know have been raped, but it has become normal in our
Right.
community. So there's a whole bunch of things that we need to deal with, but we're not going to get anywhere with a white facing, institution that's really here to criminalize our families. Because, for the longest time in this country, like dating back to slavery, the white institution has always thought that they know how to better take care of our children than we do. But
Right.
yet, our enslaved ancestors raised theirs and,
Mm-hmm.
fed them off of their milk. So it's a
Literally.
real hypocrisy that goes on in these institutions that are systemically racist.
That's definitely true. It's definitely true. I
And
think,
that's how they get us, right? Like what you
yeah,
just said. Like, we need ACS because there are children being harmed. And it's like, and that's how they get us. Like, they make us believe that we need this institution that's going to criminalize. We're what, 13% of the population?
right.
But our children are the highest rate of
In foster
children that
care,
are taken from their families.
it's
You know what I'm
true.
saying? So, I just want us to look at the big picture, because a lot of things that they pitch to us, and it's like black on black crime. Honey, there's no such thing. We don't kill each other at a higher rate as white people, as Asian people, as Spanish people. But they feed this narrative to us because if you looked at the news, you would think that only black people commit crime.
That's serious. And if you don't know, before people even get to ACS, well, I know in New York City, every state has their different rules. You call a number, it's supposed to go like in a certain order. You call this number, and a lot of, I forgot what the department is called, but it's a number before you go to ACS, before
Mm-hmm.
they go to ACS actually.
They call
And
it state.
yeah, so you call that number, and a lot of claims that go through them don't even get passed to ACS. So can you imagine
No,
how much calls get
they
to
get
like these people?
so many calls. It's
Yes.
such a big business. Like, it's a billion-dollar business. Like adoption, foster care, like,
I'm a foster
even,
parent. I'm just saying,
yeah,
but
yeah. Foster care is a big business. And while
it
we
is.
have some foster parents that's really out here doing it because they care about kids, we have
Right.
a lot of foster parents that just sees that as a way to get money. So,
That's
we
true.
have to really, put context behind and content behind everything that we're talking about, right? Because, I'm a child, I was a child that had a failed adoption. My
Mm.
adopted parents, my adopted mother took me to the precinct like at 11 and was like, I don't want her. All right. I went right back into the system under something called the PINS, person in need of supervision. And I
Right.
was an angry child and a sad child because I wanted to know where I came from. And that turned me
Mm.
into having a label as a bad child. And then I got bullied in school. So then I learned how to fight. So a lot of us, when we're children, like we master, the emotions of anger and sadness because we're
Right.
not nurtured, because we're not cared for. Imagine somebody telling you, "Oh, well, you should just be happy that we took because your mother didn't want you." As a child, you know what I'm saying? And
Right.
my adoptive mother, they gave her 8 kids, and 6 of them winded up back in care. And
That's a problem to me. That's a
and I
problem
was
to me.
traded through the Children's Aid Society, which is now Children's Aid, but is a big thing. And I'm only one person that they hurt. So
Right.
just imagine.
I think that's wild to me. I don't like when these are for foster parents. I'm a foster parent. If you're
Hmm.
gonna adopt a child and at 18 they out of your house, you didn't really love that child at all. If that child can't stay to you until they get married or just move out or something like that, that child didn't become a part of your family. That was a check to you. And honestly, foster parents don't make that much. I'm confused. Unless you give the child the bare minimum, foster parents do not make that much money. I guess a private agency, I don't know how much they give, but public agencies don't get that much money. So if you're gonna be a foster parent, please care about the child that you're getting. Please nurture them. They're a part of your family, family vacations. They shouldn't be left out of things. No, if you're gonna have a child in your family, make them a part. And
Yeah,
I know it's
it's
hard as a foster parent trying to make a child know about the other side, especially if it's just like to me, as being a foster parent, I've seen some of the parents. I'm like, maybe that's kind of dicey to be around. But if the child doesn't want to know, I think at an appropriate age, you probably tell them where they actually are from. And
it's
don't be at 12 years old, 15. Oh, you're not related to us. That's
it's a
that's a
must.
lot.
I knew from birth kind of that I wasn't related. And then, my adopted parents' family always let us know, the adopted cousins or whatever, the whole thing was you're not blood. So
That's
there's a lot
mean.
of that goes on. And I just think whoever created the whole adoption situation is an idiot. They're all idiots because what it has turned into is 50 years of harm ever since, this law was put into place. It's the 50th year of it this year. And it's hurt and harmed way more children than it's helped. And then just think about it to tell a child completely that they will never know who their family is, because that's what they told me. I had a closed adoption. It's one of the
Mm,
most horrible things you could ever do to a child. We all have roots. And when you sever those roots, you are sending children on the path of destruction. And I don't care what it is. If it's a horrible situation, so what? Children
right.
deserve to know, like I just found my mother last September.
Mm,
I just was able to obtain my original, imagine your original birth certificate being somewhere in a warehouse and they tell you you can't have it.
that's crazy. That's crazy.
Imagine. So I found, my mother's side of the family in September, and it's March now, and I still have not met this lady because she really convinced herself for 47 years that she did the right thing. And mind you, she has 6 other children that she kept. And her
Oh,
last child, she named Tanesha too. So imagine,
it's a dazzling for me.
trying to deal with all of that and still, reunification is not easy. It's just as traumatizing as separation. She can't even face me right now, even though I found her 6 months ago and she doesn't live far from me. I have yet to see this woman's face, right? So it's a lot.
It sounds so for her to kind of honestly try to replace you. I'm surprised you would still want to meet her because she tried to.
Right,
Oh, she named a
because
whole other kid after you.
well, I want to know who my father is, right? So, and right now the story that I'm getting is that she don't remember, is that she totally blocked that out, you know.
Mm.
So yeah, so it's a lot, just trying to deal with that and be a mother to my own kids and thinking because it's generational harm, right?
Right,
Because I didn't have family, my kids didn't have family.
right.
And these are things you don't think about when you're young and you're having kids, but you see how your trauma kind of manifests in your children because of what you didn't have. Like all of them things are connected. And I just believe that, it's a cycle of harm that is done on purpose to destroy Black families.
That's crazy. You're better than me, girl. I wouldn't want to know. Like you're replacing your girl by. But you know what?
Really
Everybody
hard
does things
to
differently.
hear,
You know.
to find out that she had, another child. And then when I asked her about it, because I've only talked to her like 3 times on the phone.
Okay.
Like the other day, March 1st was her birthday, and I like text her. And it just put me in the
Happy
bad
birthday.
place. Because imagine like finding your mother and just like wanting your mother your whole life and want
Right.
to know what happened, and then finding her and her being like, oh, well, I don't remember certain things. And then her being like, oh, well, I'm going to have to get myself together before we could meet because, and, to know that none of my brothers, I have 4 older siblings, and none
Mhm.
of them have reached out to me
Oh
either.
my God! I thought you was the oldest.
I
I
was
thought
the 5th child, honey.
maybe
Fifth
she was raped.
child.
Maybe she was raped. That's what I'm thinking. Because there's no
I don't
way.
think so. From the paperwork that I got from Children's Aid, my father was Jamaican. And he
That
had
makes
went
sense.
back to Jamaica when she was 6 months pregnant, and she was hoping
Oh,
that he came back so that they could be together. So yeah, she knew who he was, and but just think of that. That's another
y'all
trauma
getting
for
the
me
tea here.
because that's a whole Jamaican heritage and
It is.
culture that I never got exposed
Do a
to.
DNA
But yet,
test.
all my life, people been asking me, "Am I Jamaican?" I'm telling you, like, imagine going to the doctor and
I can
every
see you being
time they
Jamaican though.
ask you what's your family history, you spaz out because they're so insensitive at the doctors that they don't even think about these things. That a good amount of people literally
Yeah.
don't know what their family history because of family separation.
I'm not gonna lie. When they asked me about my father's stuff, my father's also Jamaican. So we're notorious for making just babies. Not me, the men's them. But they're notorious for having a lot of kids out of wedlock and all this stuff and having like a lot of kids everywhere. I think she's doing ancestry thing. I want to
I
do
did
one so
all of that.
bad.
I did that. My
Um,
daughter did that before I found my mother's side of the family.
that's crazy. When I go to the doctor and they say, "Oh, your father's," I was like, "All I know, he got diabetes. That's all I know." Like, I know his name, but I
Yeah.
don't know nothing about he's a stranger to me. Like, literally
And then
stranger.
that's another trauma, right? Like not knowing your people, and like and I'm like, so I became a history buff and I became like a studier of Black people because I didn't know my family,
Right,
because it affected me that much. Like I don't think people understand that Black people at the root, African people, we are very much about the community. We are very much about the family. So like Black people in this country literally created family reunions when emancipation happened. Black people was traveling all over the country trying to reconnect with their families. So
right.
family's very important to me, and I have a big problem with ACS, BCW, CPS, whatever you want to call them, and their actions of
Right.
I could have went to my grandmother. I found out I had a grandmother that lived 2 miles from me until she
Wow.
died in 2008. I was a big secret. None of the kids knew I existed. Nothing. Like because you
Wow.
got to understand, like when they probably saw my 3 older brothers and sister probably saw her pregnant, but they were young, so
Mhm.
they forgot it. She never brought a baby home.
Right.
But I'm just confused because she had
Crazy.
another child after me in 1977, like a year and a half after me,
Wow.
and then she had another child in 1979. So for me, I could never, and I try to give her all the grace I can because I also understand what the child welfare system does. But imagine
Right.
if I was ignorant to all of that. Like, I would really hate her, you know? So
that's. Thank you guys for coming to the end of our podcast for Hear Our Voices, where we listen to stories, give resources, and change the narrative of homelessness. Come for part 2 for next week for Tanesha's story. Thank you. Bye.